universe, no matter how vast, will never be big enough for you and I to coexist.
Gentlemen, and welcome to the Christmas episode of the podcast. I am your host, the Frankster. I am here with my good buddy who's currently eating some cereal.
The hero, DJ Hart.
And this is your home for Earth Wars talk, Transformers talk in general, and just generally all around nerdiness. We got a good topic this week, a pretty interesting one, ranking Optimus Primes and all that. But before we get to that, we got all the stuff we normally run down. So let's go ahead and talk about last weekend's event. New bot introduced Roto Storm. And DJ, how did you do in your Crystal Kraken there? Yeah, same here. 2 and 3 star was it.
Yeah. Here, let me. So, all right. So yeah, Alliance Totalizer, 1 million points to complete it. 100 prestiges, 3 and 4 star Rotostorm along the line, as well as shards and other things. Character shards get you the 2 star if you want it. I got the 3 star. Rotostorm is awesome bot. I plan to level him. I'm not sure where I'm going to put him yet, but I really do like the bot. I like his ability. He's very, very damaging. My alliance can do 1 million points. We just didn't get there this time because a lot of our guys were out doing Christmas stuff and visiting for the holidays and all that fun stuff. So we didn't have as many players as we normally do, and the players that we did still have don't normally score that high. We had some heavy hitters. Just cumulatively we just weren't able to hit heavy enough. So I mean, I didn't do my best either. But my weekend got shot. So.
We had the same problem. A lot of people were busy. A lot of people had real life, so they weren't able to really contribute as much. I was able to knock away like I normally do, but I was about the only one that was, I was in the 20,000s again, and nobody else was anywhere near me. But
yeah,
I still got the 2 and the 3, which is the minimum I want from those events because I'm so close to all the 3 stars, and I have all the 2s, so I'm like at least that. So, and Rotostorm is cool. The big thing for me, 4-star Silverbolt, finally.
Yeah, I saw that, dude. Awesome sauce. Now, the only thing you're going to have to watch out for now is they introduced some new cores for your build bots that one of them prevents hacking and the other one prevents EMP. So you got to look for those. You got to look at, when you're going to a battle, you got to look at their build bots to see if they have those cores on them to make sure that it's not a build bot that's preventing EMP in an area. Otherwise, Silverbolt's essentially useless.
Yeah.
So you got to watch out for that when you go into battle. But yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I love some Silverbolt. I've got the 4-star. I'd love to have you the 5-star.
Yeah, I still use this 3-star, so I was like so excited to get that 4-star. I was like, yes, awesome bot. So I already got him level 40. He's being upgraded to 41. He'll be ready, I think, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, Saturday, but I'm pretty sure he'll be ready tomorrow. I already got a team picked out to slide him into.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah. But, that was pretty much the event. I mean, it was a pretty good one, and we each got 3-star Rotostorm, so there's that. Wish one of us could have got the 4. I'd really love to see his 4-star in action.
Oh, I know it. It's good, dude. It's really good. Like you play him in play testing, and it's amazing. I mean, he just clears an area out. He's so good. And that's using him solo. If you put him on a team and you spread out like whose ability's doing what, that way you're not using as much at one time. Oh, he'll be perfect. He'll be perfect.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's going to be one of them that we get a lot of use out of once we have him.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, I think it's time for the news, sir. So why don't you do what you do?
I will do what it is I do, and what I do is the news. All right, guys. So in the news today, they say Happy Holidays, and they're going into some of the things that they're going to be going over in this newsletter. So now this particular newsletter that I'm reading from is an update. So they released a newsletter before, but it was released with a little bit of misinformation, so they had to re-release it. This is the updated one. So upcoming event is going to be called Lighted Spirits. And you can win up to 25 winter chests, each containing a chance to drop a warm or cold. So 30 5-star combat shards or Nanofrost Mark III battle booster, which that's the first time we've seen battle boosters in an event for, in a while. I'm not happy to see that. But 5-star combat shards, that's cool. Up to 1,500 4-star shards, 3,000 3-star shards, 10,000 premium shards, 20 million Allen Energon, and up to 150,000 Spark. 10 prestiges to complete the event. Battle zones are normal. Here's the tiers and how they break down. So anywhere from 1 to 1,000 will get you one of each of the prizes. Alrighty, and then we go into a recap, and they're basically just going to recap the previous year of 2021, going into all the things they added. The new the Autobot Decepticon New Joiner bundles, the first ever 5-star combat or combiner Omega Supreme, the 5-star bot they gave away in the 5-year anniversary, just all kinds of stuff. And they go over what each thing they did in each saga was over the previous year, and then some of the feedback that they got on Discord. So scrolling on through that, going over our content creators who are Sunstreaker Waza, Engineer Hoist, Skywarp Greer, Grind Time, and Solia. Check all those guys out. They're awesome. The Frankster and I hope to find ourselves among them soon, maybe this year if we're crossing our fingers on all of our toes. That's my Christmas wish, to become a content creator. And if I don't get it for Christmas, then it's my New Year's resolution: become a content creator, an officially recognized content creator by SpaceX. Yeah. It will come with responsibility, but you know what? I'm ready. It's just like SpongeBob. I'm ready. All right. So we have our Christmas gift, and to receive it, we have to take part in the event. So you'll get 5 total Spark Crystals, Gold Power Core Chip, 10,000 Premium Shards, 10 Yellow Crimzeeks. Why are they still giving away Crimzeeks? And all you need to do is take part in this upcoming event and score 500 points. They'll send you the reward on Friday, January the 7th. Alrighty, so, and then we have our Christmas bundles. They're going to be doing double values, so you're going to get twice as much as you would normally get from each bundle if you choose to spend your money on it. So nobody will blame you if you do. And then they're going to be doing, those bundles are going to be the best of each year of the game in terms of bots. So the best of 2020, 2019, 18, 17, and 16, and the best bots from those years. So you got Double Dealer, 6-Gun, Chromia, Strafe, Goldfire, Blades, Rook, Rhinox, Rodimus Prime, Elita, Cynthius Magnus, Slash, Cup, Laser Optimus, Snarl, Cheetor, Starsaber, Ultra Magnus, Grimlock, and First Aid. And
it's interesting that Rodimus Prime is on one of them. I'm surprised he would be considered a best bot of the year. I mean, I know because it's just I love Hot Rod. He's my favorite bot. Don't get me wrong. I'm just surprised he made the best of the year.
Well, you just got to look at what bots were introduced that year, and I guess for each year you got to really. I mean, maybe he wouldn't get picked for like an overall for like of the game, but for that particular year and the bots that were released, and they're trying to do 4 in each category. I guess he would have been. So, alrighty. And then they get into ability level 11s and the bots who got them. So I'm not going to take all the time to go over all the abilities and what they are, because that would be a pain in the butt. So you can read through this if you want to just kind of pause it and read it as we're going, or you can watch Space Ape's most recent live stream. I will include a link to that in the description below where they go over it. But the bots who received level 11 abilities are 6-Gun, Brainstorm, Alpha Bravo, Pipes, First Aid, Dinobot, Prowl, and Trailbreaker. And, of course, their Decepticon equivalents. All right, and then we get into the community corner, and we got some guys posting some of the stuff that they've recently gotten for Christmas. Got a couple of action figures there. We got, that's interesting. That's Bayformers Prime with an interesting paint scheme. And we got Bayformers Megatron there, I believe, from the Age of Extinction movie. And then we got an illustration of a combiner. Looks pretty good. We got somebody's Quintesson Sharkticon collection. That looks really good. We got someone else's Transformer collection. We got some combiners in the background, Omega Supreme, and a lot of our favorite G1 bots in the forefront. And then the Saga schedule. We are in week 7 out of 7. So we're currently in the individual totalizer with 10,000 points. Christmas special. All right, and then they talk about some bug fixes, things of that nature, so you can pause to look at that if you want to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the news. I was struggling to get back to us.
I was saying, it says the newsletter still said 25 of the hot or cold, and it's going to be 30. There's 3 every tier. There's 10 tiers.
You're probably right.
Yeah. Because there's 3 a tier, 10,000, 10 tiers. It's going to be 30.
We'll find out tomorrow.
All right. Well, it is time now for our comments section. So,
Comment
got any
section.
comments from last week?
All righty. All right. So, in today's mailbag segment, we have comments from William Edward Hackman. This is the first time he's commented on one of our episodes. Thank you, William. So, his comment is, there's 4 Optimuses in the game. The G1 Optimus, Laser Optimus Prime, Optimus Primal, and Optimal Optimus. They're all pretty good bots. I don't know which one is better because they have different weapons and abilities. So very good point, but we are not necessarily rating all the bots in the game today. We're going to be ranking all the Optimus Primes overall that have made appearances in TV, movies, and video games. We're not going to include comics because that would take forever. So, yeah. And then our next comment is from Mr. John J. Pollock, who's never missed an episode. He says, I personally hate the weekend raid events. I have 23 to 25,000 during regular weekends, and during the raid event, my points pale in comparison. Plus, I can only use 1 or 2 squads to actually cause damage during raids, which limits my points for alliances. As for combat bots, I haven't really researched in depth about which ones are better. I use them all, whichever regular bots they will pair with. I put them on and use them. Okie dokie. And then, let's see. Oh, and he also went on to say, also I use healer on almost every squad. Well, to each his own.
It could be a good strategy. It's just not something we're particularly fans of, but it could easily work.
Yeah, well, you like your healers.
I like Wheeljack.
Yeah, I just...
With Cheetor, it's one particular combination that I like, because Wheeljack with Cheetor is amazing.
Yeah, I personally just prefer to have a bot out there that can actually, shoot at the other guy. So, and then he told us who the voice actors were for some of the characters for Primal. So Gary Chalk is the voice actor for Primal and Armada Prime. Thank you for that. That was driving me nuts.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, your comment, sir, gets a like. As does William Edward Hackman. All right, so that, ladies and gentlemen, was the mailbag segment.
All right, well, that will take us into the main topic where we are going to list the television and movie versions of Optimus Prime. Which one do we think is the best? Which one we think is the worst? Where do they stack up against each other?
To be fair, it's Optimus, so it's hard to have a worst Optimus. Because
there is. Well, it's in comparison to the others.
I know. So it's like, just bear that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that when we're doing this ranking, it's not that we think this particular Optimus is bad. It's just because in the grand scheme of things, Optimus Prime is Optimus Prime, and he's freaking awesome no matter what incarnation you're looking at. but when you stack them together and the movie they were in, and the writing around whatever show or movie they appear in is going to have something to do with it as well. At least it will for me. So just bear that in mind, everybody. All right, so I have my list. Do you have yours?
Yes, I do. I have it. And also, for everybody out there, we came up with 7 different versions that met our criteria because Unicron Trilogy we counted as 1.
Right.
A.k.a. Armada Optimus or Laser Optimus from Earth Force, if you will.
Right.
And then, of course, the aligned continuity we counted as 1.
Right, which includes
just to make it easier, because then you're just splitting hairs if you don't.
Right, and just to give you a brief summary of what the aligned continuity includes, that includes both War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron video games, as well as Rise of the Darkspark, Transformers Prime, Transformers Robots in Disguise, the newer version of that show that had Bumblebee leading the team, as well as a few novels and comic books. I think Transformers Exodus was one of the novels. So that is aligned continuity Optimus Prime.
Yes, and he fits the criteria because of the TV shows that were involved in that. So, all right, so we'll start with 7. We'll work our way to 1. All right, so DJ, if you want to go first, what version of Optimus is number 7 on your list?
For my number 7 is Optimus Prime of Transformers Animated. And the reason I have him at the bottom of the list is because I wasn't really a big fan of Animated when it came out. I didn't care for the animation style of it at the time. I really do want to go back and watch it because, hindsight and all. And it was an interesting take on Prime because in that version of Transformers, Prime wasn't... It wasn't, the thing that we know Prime to be now. Like, it wasn't like you're born to be a Prime or anything like that. There wasn't the 13 Primes and all that fun stuff. It was a rank. And there were several different Primes. So Optimus was the captain of a space bridge repair crew, and they ended up on Earth doing the adventures of that show because of happenstance. So they made it to where it wasn't that big a deal to be a Prime. They kind of took something away from that, I thought, which is another reason I didn't like it. There was nothing wrong with the character of Optimus in that particular show. I never really watched it, so I don't know how much butt kickery he laid. Just it was an interesting idea, but it's just not something that I like personally. I like my Primes to be freaking legendary, and this show just didn't do that for me.
Yeah, Animated is also my number 7.
Yep.
We're thinking alike here. I've only seen a couple of episodes. The animation really turned me off, and the episodes I saw the stories of those particular ones didn't pull me in. I just kind of went on to other things and never really went back to it. I'm kind of like you. I would like to check it out at some point, maybe when I have the time, but Animated the whole show didn't speak to me. And that version of Optimus, I'm like you, they took some of the specialness of being a Prime away, which is another good reason to put it number 7.
Yeah.
So,
kudos to that show, however, for introducing the character of Bulkhead, who is now one of my favorite characters in Transformers. I would love to see him appear in Transformers Earth Wars. So, all right. So, number 6, I will put Optimus Prime from the original Transformers Robots in Disguise. And the reason being is, first of all, that was one of the imported shows from Japan. It was an anime transported over. And the show was weird. I didn't love the theme song, first of all. And now I'm ranking the show, not the Prime. But the show has a lot to do with it. I didn't love the show. But it looked like he could do some pretty cool things. Like they had Ultra Magnus in it, and they had him as Optimus's actual brother. And the two could use the Matrix to combine their power, sort of like power linking if they needed to. So I thought that was kind of neat. But the Megatron in that show was weird, and it was the Predacons versus the Autobots, which I thought was weird, and the whole show was just kind of weird, and yeah, I just didn't, and I didn't watch enough of it. It's another show I need to go back and watch start to finish. That I would like to do that, but as far as where it sits up here for right now, that Prime is number 6.
I also have Robots in Disguise as number 6. Not really because of the show. I've actually watched quite a bit of the show. Like a while back, a bunch of episodes were on YouTube, and I watched them. And it's actually kind of interesting. I actually thought the Predacons as the villains instead of Decepticons was like an interesting twist.
Yeah.
I mean, it is weird, but it wasn't a turnoff for me. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting, but I don't really like that version of Optimus. He feels too young, if that makes any sense. Like, he never gave me the strong leader vibe.
Yeah.
He gave me like the more young, more of a hot rod feel in that he's young and not, I don't know. It could just be me, but that's what I took from it. It could be the voice actor too. Because he just felt too young for me. And I was like, if you're going to have a young leader, it should be Hot Rod. Optimus should be the battle-hardened veteran.
Well, I think Gary Chalk did the voice of Optimus in that show, too.
If he did, it sounded really weird, though. It didn't sound like him.
I'd have to go back and rewatch it again.
I mean, it's been a long time, so my memory could be mistaken, but I remember, like, not really liking that particular take of Optimus. So.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's move on to number 5, sir, and let's see if the streak of me and you having the same ones continue.
All right, so my number 5 pick is going to be Optimus Primal. And this is where they all are just as good as the next one in my mind.
Yeah, it really is.
This is where we started. Because Optimus Primal, I have nothing but good things to say about Optimus Primal. I loved him as a character. Gary Chalk did a great job with the voice. I love his evolution. Beast Machines, he got kind of weird, but I didn't see it all the way through Beast Machines, so I had to rewatch that again. But
it's amazing.
But I really, really liked it. Like, he's trying to, keep his crew of misfits to work together, and he's having to deal with Megatron over here doing his craziness, and oh god, When you're put on the spot to describe something and then nothing comes to mind, that's this right here as a meme. But Optimus Primal was just a great, great take. And now I know technically he's not really Optimus Prime, so some people were like, well, he really shouldn't be on the list. However, there are 2 things that make me believe he should be on this list. A, he did house Optimus Prime Spark for a period of time, which also housed the Matrix. So that's what upgraded him into Optimal Optimus. So he, in essence, did become a Prime. And B, he was originally supposed to be Optimus Prime in the future with a new Beast Mode. And then that was what the toy line was going to do. But then when the show came out, the writers in the show were like, no, we're not doing that. He's going to be a descendant of Optimus Prime. And that's why that came to be. So even though he's not technically Optimus Prime, it's close enough. He's on the list. He's number 5. I like him.
We finally disagree on that. Yes, my number 5 is actually Optimus from the Aligned continuity.
What?
Yes, and again, splitting hairs here, because for like you said, the top 5 are all amazing. There's not really a wrong pick in any of them. They're all great in their own reason.
But still, number 5?
Yeah, at 5. At 5. Because the Aligned Optimus, he's of the 5 best, he's my least favorite. Just, there weren't as many cool moments that one had versus the others. Like, when I think about them and I think of cool Optimus moments, there are like other Optimuses that pop to mind way more often than the Aligned continuity. Now, granted, he is a great take on Optimus. There's no doubt of that. But I can't think of in the games, in the Cybertron games, there was some cool moments, but were they as cool as some of the moments the other Optimuses had?
In my mind.
I mean, for me...
Because I'm the one that did it.
Yeah. For me, I would just have to put Aligned Optimus at 5 just because it's process of elimination. What order do I like them in? He comes in 5th. But, like, Transformers Prime was a great show. And the Optimus in that, there was nothing wrong with him. He was perfect for that show. But there were other versions of Optimus that I liked more, and that's just He just gets left out because of that, unfortunately.
Nah. All right. Well, my number. So number 5 was your. All right. So we're up to number 4 now.
4.
All right.
We're in the top 4, final 4.
All right. My number 4 pick is Optimus Prime of the Bayformers movies.
A4.
And all right. So the reason he's number 4 is because. So there were a couple of things that he was great, but like in the first movie, he was kind of wimpy. Like he killed one Decepticon on a bridge, and then and then every time him and Megatron went to blows, he just got rolled up. And so I felt like that was kind of a mistake on their part, especially after the slugfest that him and Megatron had in the animated cartoon Transformers the movie. I felt like that was so dumb. It's like, why would you do that? But they fixed it in all the other movies. Like, he was just, from that point forward, he just became a complete badass. And he deserves to be on the top 5 list of anybody's Optimus Primes, simply for the reason that he gave us the most badass line in the history of badass lines, and that line is, "Give me your face." That's awesome. So, he was just for me, he was the badass Prime. You know, he was like, after the first movie, he was the one that every time he killed you in the face. And it's like, I got to where I watched those movies purely to see in what new way Optimus Prime was going to kill the bad guy in his face. That's like, but I do like it. He was, and of course, you know, he is voiced by Peter Cullen, who will forevermore be Optimus Prime in my mind. I didn't love the way he looked, and that's just because the Bayformers movies try to put too much detail in it. Like, you can look at them, and there's a lot of moving parts, like, in different places of their body, and I get what he's going for, but it's not what I want in a Transformers appearance. It's too much, you know? So, Badass Prime, number 4 on my list.
All right, my number 4 is actually the Unicron trilogy Optimus, or Laser Optimus as he is in the Earth Wars game for Earth Wars fans.
Yeah.
Yes. I love this version of Optimus. I've only watched all the way through Armada. I'm slowly watching my way through Energon now, and then I've got Cybertron.
Right.
I got them on DVD. I'm just have to have the time to watch through them. But at least through Armada and the beginning of Energon, I love that version of Optimus. Like he is so good, and him combining with Jetfire.
Yeah,
Jetfire.
Jet
Him
Convoy.
combining with Jetfire is awesome.
It is cool. And you don't know, there's no hints or clues that that's going to happen. It just happens. And you're like, what?
Yes. So I loved Armada, and I'm really enjoying Energon so far. I mean, I think I watched what is considered the first season, like the first couple discs or something like that. It's like in the box set, it says first season. I thought it was all just one continuous thing, but I'm really enjoying that version of Optimus. So that's why he gets 4th on my list. I may think different as I continue to show, because I know a lot of people don't like Energon and Cybertron,
right?
But they hold Armada up as the gold standard, which that is like a really amazing version.
It is, and I prefer the animation in that one as well versus the animation in the other 2 shows.
Yes, it is, definitely. From what I've seen, the animation is way better. But I love that version of Optimus. He feels like Optimus. He feels like a leader. He had a pretty good design, too. Like, the design wasn't bad at all.
It wasn't. It was a decent take.
Yeah, it was. So for that, he gets 4th on my list.
Okay. All right, well, moving up to number 3, and my number 3 is Optimus Prime of the Unicron trilogy. It's a little higher on my list than he is on yours. But yes, for all the same reasons, I really, really liked him. He looked good. Gary Chalk was, of course, the voice, and he did a good job. His initial appearance is what sold me on the whole show. Like in the first episode, you know, the kids find the minicon. They're like, hey, what's this little robot? Megatron shows up, and you're like, oh, my God. What? You know, and then right when he's reaching for him, then you hear Gary Chalk's voice go, stand down, Megatron. You're like, what? And then it does the awesome, like zoom over, pan around circle thing, and then like back up view, and this Optimus Prime standing there with his arms down to his side like a badass. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good show. So, and then, yeah, Jet Convoy was super awesome. Like, nobody saw that coming. I didn't know that was going to happen. I was like, where did this come from? That's never been a thing. I like it. So, it was just a great show. It was a good take on Optimus. And he gave, and in classic Optimus Prime form, when Starscream defected to the Autobots, Prime gave him a shot. He gave him a chance. He didn't just say, heck no. He gave him a chance. Took some convincing, but he gave him a shot. Did it pay off in the end? Well, yeah, in the very end. But he did steal all their weapons and go back to the moon. But at the very end, like, he straight up, Starscream died the hero. But that's an episode. That's a topic for another episode. But yeah, Unicron Trilogy, Optimus Prime, Cybertron and Energon notwithstanding, is my number 3 Optimus Prime.
Yes. Can't argue with that. That's a good pick. My number 3 is the Bayformers Optimus. So we're a little flip-flop.
Okay, yeah, a little bit.
I like him a little bit better just because while the robot mode design is, as most Bayformers are.
Yeah.
I actually really loved his vehicle mode. I love the flaming truck. I actually thought that was cool.
The truck itself was fine because it was
the truck.
Because his original vehicle mode was a 1980s semi, and they all were flat-faced, and now it's a modern truck. It's still a truck. It's just got the big old nose on it, which is fine. I did not love the flames on it. I thought that was an unnecessary Michael Bay touch.
I love the flames. I like that. I actually thought that was cool. I was a fan of that. But for also the reasons you said, he had some of the coolest Optimus moments ever. The give me your face, and the one part where he's just like, I'll kill you, and then he shoots the guy in the face.
Yeah.
Like every movie, he's going after somebody's face.
Yeah, I know it. I loved it. The best one, because I was waiting for it the whole movie, and I was like, where is it? Where is it? Don't you end this movie without it? And it was in Age of Extinction, and then he's throwing down with Lockdown, and then Lockdown is turned around, and all of a sudden you just see Optimus Prime's sword right through Lockdown's neck, from this point of view. I was like, there it is, and then Optimus just up with the sword, cut his head in half. I was like, yes, that's what I was waiting for.
That is a really good version of Optimus. In fact, if there's one saving grace of that whole movie series, it's Optimus.
Yeah, that is the thing that makes it, because everything else that you see in the trailers, that's going to be awesome. Oh, they're going to do this. Yes, yes, yes. But by the end of the movie, the only thing that made it worth watching was Optimus.
Yeah, and they nailed his personality. Peter Cullen playing it was great. The lines were all very Optimus-like. They did such a good job of making him feel like Optimus, even if he didn't look like him a lot of the times.
Yeah.
They got the face right, but everything else was just too much.
Yeah, well, him having a mouth I wasn't a big fan of, but...
Yeah, the shield that would come over it, though, to make him look like...
In battle mode, which I like. That was a nice touch.
They should just left it that way, I agree, but...
Yeah.
It's still, Bayformers, just the cool moments alone, and the fact that he just felt so Optimus, I got to put him number 3.
Yep, okay. So, all right, so that brings us up to number 2.
Yep.
All right, my number 2 Optimus Prime is, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, G1 Optimus.
Oh.
And the reason he's I'll explain why he's number 2, but G1 Optimus is, he's G1 Optimus. He's the guy. He's the original, that's where Peter Cullen started doing his voice back in the 80s. The reason he's my number 2, though, and not number 1, is because, and this is what Peter Cullen wanted out of the character, so I'm not taking anything away from it, but he was what he was meant to be. He was a fatherly figure, in a way. And he had some great moments, like in the pilot episode, he's thrown down with Megatron on that dam, and then he pulls out the axe, from his hand. I was like, whoa, this is cool, So he had all the elements that make for a great Optimus Prime. It's just, I guess the thing that holds him back for me is that it was the 80s, and there was very little that they could do with a Saturday morning cartoon, not only because of budget constraints, but also because of all the stuff that was out during that time period to make sure that they weren't just taking advantage of kids. So they had their hero character be more like a fatherly figure, rather than the wartime veteran, badass. So, and I kind of do prefer that part of it. So yeah. I mean, I can't really go into a whole lot more. I mean, it's just he's my number 2. I like him. He would be number 1 if not for my number 1 pick. So,
if he had more Clint Eastwood style moments like the Bayformers Optimus, he would be your number 1 basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I understand that. My number 2, and this is really hard because I wanted to put my number 2 at number 1, but I was like, oh, does he? Because he counts, but technically he doesn't. So it's Optimus Primal, by the way, if you haven't figured it out.
I kind of fit, yeah.
Yeah, it's because I wanted so bad to put him number 1, but I'm like, but he's only in here for technicality. So it's like, can I really put him number 1? It's like,
yeah.
So because I love Primal, he was such a good leader. He had the strong leadership of Optimus, but he wasn't as sure of himself, especially at the beginning. So you had the inner conflict similar to Hot Rod, but on a different level.
Yeah.
Because he was more mature than Hot Rod, but he was like, am I the person to lead this?
Yeah.
Well, there's no one else, so I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it made for a great dynamic. He was a great character. He had so many good moments. He got upgraded twice. We got to see him Transmetal, the blue monkey on the surfboard. I know you hate that version.
I don't. Yeah, his original form is my favorite one. That's the one I associate with Optimus Primal.
It is. As a kid, I loved his Transmetal. As an adult, I'm like, yeah, it was a little much.
It was. Yeah, you think that's a little much. Optimal Optimus is that's so much. I mean, there's no beast left in that. It's just all metal.
Yeah, I loved that as a kid, though. I loved Optimus too. I was like, every time he got upgraded when I was a kid, I was like, this is so cool. And then finally you got the Beast Machines, the continuation. His story arc in that one is really good too. I mean, just so much good story was around Primal.
Yeah.
That it's just hard for me not to have him at least 2 because he's so good. And to be fair, he's pretty much my version of Optimus that I grew up with because G1 wasn't on any of the channels when I was a kid, the reruns of it, because it was done by the time I was old enough to watch it.
Yeah.
And all I had was the VHS of Transformers the movie. That was the only thing of the original Optimus I had. So Primal was my Optimus. So that's why he's at least number 2, but in my heart, probably number 1. So.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that brings us to our number 1 picks. All right. So I think we know who each other's number 1 picks are. But for the sake of, let's just say it. My number 1 pick is that guy right there. So, get my green screen out of there. So, yeah. Aligned continuity, Optimus Prime is my number 1 pick. And I'm going to tell you why. All those Clint Eastwood moments that G1 Optimus Prime was missing, Continuity Prime has them. And they're awesome. Okay? They're freaking awesome. I loved playing as him in War for Cybertron. I loved playing as him as Fall of Cybertron. You have the option to play as him in just G1 skin if you want to in that game. Transformers Prime was just an amazing show. I mean, they did so much to expand on the lore of the Primes, with Optimus being at the forefront of it. There's one moment that there's 2 moments actually. So at the end of Transformers Prime, him and Megatron have this just freaking throwdown to rival their G1 throwdown from Transformers the movie outside of an erupting volcano, and Optimus just whips his tail. I mean, just beats him down. And the only reason that Megatron came back and actually took Prime down in that fight was because he started getting all juiced up by Dark Energon all of a sudden. And then they did the beginning of Season 2 where Prime had lost his memory and thought he was working for Megatron, And then when he realizes who he is, and then he gets the Matrix restored to him, and Megatron's like freaking out because if Optimus remembers who he is, Megatron knows this is not good. So he's like, no, no, no! Goes to swing at him with a sword, and Optimus turns around and just catches it. He closes his faceplate and he goes, Megatron, rears his sword back and goes, "Be gone," and punches him in the face. If you haven't noticed, I'm a good sucker for a punch in the face. But like,
see, you remember all those moments, and I watched them all and enjoyed them in the moment. And then until you started rattle them off, I didn't even remember.
Yeah, dude, it was so good. Because what was so good about that is the storytelling. When Optimus was going to deliver the killing blow to Megatron outside that volcano, Megatron caught Optimus's sword like that. So when Megatron's freaking out that Optimus is about to have his memory restored, he tries to, nip this in the butt before it becomes a problem. Optimus was like. And then just wail. It started decking him. Just nonstop decking him. It didn't stop.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And then he got a little bit more badass after that because he's got more ruthless, So, and then he got his upgrade in that show when he actually died and Smokescreen was supposed to become the next Prime. And Smokescreen was like, there's no way I can be a Prime. We got to do something. So he just takes the hammer of Solus Prime, puts it in Optimus's hand, it brings him back to life, it upgrades him into his new, beefier mode. He can fly now. His new truck mode is still good looking. It still looks like Prime, except now he's, to put it as in Ultra Magnus's words, robust.
Yeah.
It was just cool. Start to finish, it was cool. It was cool. And then, so in the show, in video games, aligned continuity Optimus. That's my Optimus Prime right there.
That Prime
and
was
Peter Cullen's still the voice.
That Prime was more or less birthed from how good Optimus in the Bayformers movies was too.
Yeah, because
they just continued what had happened in the way he was in the movies and how, like I said, like Clint Eastwoody he was.
Yeah,
they just continued on with that because they're like, that works. We're going to use it. So.
Yeah, and they did a good job. So, like, the games had a more G1-inspired look to them, and then the show, Transformers Prime, had a more, initially it had a more, Bayformers look, inspired look.
I did enjoy that show. I just was never a fan of the animation of it.
The animation never bothered me. I like a decent CGI show. Like that, anyway.
Yeah, I'm just too old school with my animation. I like 80s, 90s style animation. It's just part of my DNA.
I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, I like the way it looks. I mean, I still watch it.
Yeah. All right, well, my number one, no surprise, going to be G1 Optimus Prime because, I mean, he's the quintessential Prime.
He is.
I mean, it's the one that set the standard that is everything's held to today.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, in my heart, I love Optimus Prime a little bit more, but I'll give G1 his due because without him, we would have had none of the others.
Yep.
And if he hadn't have been as iconic as he was and made so many children love him like they did, Transformers probably would have faded away into nothing. So
yeah. And I mean, to the point where there was such a letter writing campaign about bringing him back after they killed him off in the movie, and kids were just mortified over that.
Well, not only that, they killed him off and mortified kids the first time, and then they bring him back as a zombie to kill him again. That made it even worse.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Like he's a zombie being controlled by the Quintessons, and he fights it and saves the day and sacrifices himself yet again, and then finally the third time around he comes back.
Yeah. Good grief.
G1's cool, though. I love G1. I had to start watching it when I was older because, like I said, I missed the original run and the reruns as a kid.
Yeah.
But when I actually got the DVD sets around the time the Bayformer movies started coming out, I fell in love with G1. It's very 80s and very cheesy, but there are some really good episodes. So anyway, G1 Optimus, he's got to be my number one. Kind of wanted to put Optimus Prime there, but couldn't take the honor away from the OG. So that's our list. We were fairly in the same thought. We had
more
a few
or less
differences.
Yeah.
Line continuity Optimus was the big.
Yeah, I mean, he was my number one. He's your number 5, which makes no sense whatsoever.
But again, top 5 splitting hairs. I mean, I'm not saying he's like there's a huge gap. It's like they're all like right here.
Yeah, it's just you got to pick one at some point. So
yeah. So and Armada, I enjoyed Armada so much that I had to put him above the line just because I loved that show and that version of Optimus.
Yeah. All
and
right.
probably it's fresher in my mind too, to be honest. Because Transformers Prime was a long time ago for me watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that probably played into it as well. But
I would watch it over again if the entire show was available on Netflix, but they've only got season 1 up. And if I'm going to watch it, I want to watch the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. So I don't blame you. I'm the same way. If I watch a show, I want to see all of it. Like once a year, I'll watch through all 3 seasons of Beast Wars. Like it's become like a yearly thing. Every summer, I'm like, you know what? Beast Wars time.
There you go. All right.
It's the best Transformers show, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps it up for this edition of the Botcast. Thank you so much for joining. As always, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell to receive notifications of future videos on the Frankster's channel, FPS Gaming. Frankie, what is our next topic going to be?
Well, it is actually your turn to pick, sir. I picked the Optimus Prime one.
Oh, of course you're going to put me on the spot like that. I thought it was your turn. All right. I feel like we did. So last week we did an Earth Wars topic. This week we did a non-Earth Wars topic. I think we need to bring it back around and do an Earth Wars topic again. So let's talk strategies. Let's talk our favorite strategies to take into battle. What do we like to use for PvP? What do we like to use for events? What do we like to use for wars? We'll talk about that next week.
All right, that's a juicy topic. I like that one. Lots to get into there.
All right.
All right, well, I hope all of our viewers have a very good Christmas. I hope you enjoy the holidays, everybody out there. And we will be back next week, so make sure you tune into that. Same bot time, same bot channel. Frankster out.
After eons of conflict, I finally see the truth of your words, Megatron. This universe, no matter how vast, will never be big enough for you and I to coexist.